Artlist.io.
Hello everybody, welcome to the first episode of the Gunner Report. Today I'm going to be talking about how I want this Arsenal team to be looking after January. And right here you have the team that we have been starting every week for the past months. Obviously you have Ryan goals, wide at right back, Gabriel and Saliba, centre back pairing, Zinchenko who likes to drift. Into midfield, Rice, who's been our best player all season, Havertz, Odegaard, Saka, Jesus and Martinelli. So, that's the team we've been rocking all season, and I'll show you what they look like while we're in the attack. And we tend to have three at the back with, like I said, Zinchenko going into the midfield, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, and David Ryan goals. Rice kind of he's just that layer of protection. He can come forward, he can lay some passes. Odegaard, he's been under lots of criticism recently because he does too much with the ball and takes too many touches in the box, which I completely agree with, but he's been one of our best players. Saka, lots of our attackers have not been performing to the way they were performing last season, and one of the reasons I think this is because of Kai Havertz. You may look at it and he has had quite a good season from the midfield, but one thing that's bad about him is how he impacts other players. I think I'm having a very different view to other people, and this leads on to like another point about later about the signings I would like to make for Arsenal. But I feel like he just takes away from Martinelli. He just fills up that space in and around the box where Martinelli could be getting in there and crossing it in. And we on the counter attack we do see that from Martinelli because of his pace. But once we get the attack, this slow build up, you just don't see much from Martinelli down that left hand side. And I feel like Kai Havertz is getting into that space. Also, I feel like it's limited Odegaard's ability to get forward and attack, and because I feel like he's been worrying too much about what's going on behind him, even though he has been one of our best attacking players. I feel like having that extra layer of protection behind him could work, and that'll lead. I'll talk about that later with the signings I would make in midfield if I was the manager of Arsenal. Anyway, I'm going to prove my point again because we haven't been working. This squad hasn't been working very well in the last couple of weeks as we have just lost to Fulham. So let's just take a look at this squad in attack. So you'd have Martinelli, Jesus and Saka going forward, and that worked really well. Jesus was on fire, Saka, Martinelli, Odegaard, Xhaka. The whole team was working brilliantly last season. And the key difference here is Xhaka isn't up next to Jesus. He's not doing a Havertz role, and Xhaka played the deeper role very well, and it let Odegaard have more freedom, knowing as he has three midfielders behind him. And if he makes an error, it's not going to impact the play much. And I think that's one of the key reasons we haven't been performing at our highest quality this season, because Havertz is just clogging up Martinelli, and also making Odegaard have to think about what's behind him. Anyway, so we'll go back to the squad. Some key errors that we've been making is our finishing. I think it was 30 shots against West Ham and no goals, and I think it was 30 shots against West Ham and no goals, which is pretty bad. And we need someone who can just score goals, and for that player who I want to sign is Ivan Toney, because I'll just show you some clips of him. He's just so good in front of goal. He's strong. He's a physical presence up there. And the other thing I like about this, I put up my 11 I want after this transfer window, and it'll show the other signing I've wanted to make. Jesus can be utilised on the left hand side, and you can just pick and choose Martinelli or Jesus. Like most of the time, one of them's in form. So on the left hand side, and there's so many different variables you could go. You could go Jesus on the right, give Saka a rest. Or I need to quickly edit something. There's one more change I wanted to make, and yeah, that's another signing I wanted to make, but I'll talk about that one later. So Jesus could come in for Saka, or like what the other signing I make, which I'll talk about later. Martinelli could play as a centre forward, and then Jesus and Saka. We haven't seen that from Arsenal because there's no point, because you may as well just swap Jesus and Martinelli. And one thing I like about this lineup that I want after this is it's freed Ødegaard. You can see that like there's 3 midfielders behind him, and he doesn't have to be tracking. He doesn't have to be worrying about that, which I've touched on a lot. So just play some Ivan Toney highlights. He's very, very good in front of goal, and he's just physical and strong, and he's a good shooter, and he's exactly what Arsenal are missing. One thing about Ivan Toney though is he's probably not going to be starting for a little bit, because he's been banned on a betting thing. So he's got 16 matches left on his fine, which he'll be handy later in the season and in the future for Arsenal. Anyway, so he comes in at a height of 185 centimetres. He's 27 years of age. He's a right footer, and his transfer value is 59 million. So if you can get him for around that price, that'll be a good get. The other signing, this one's for depth, and it's Adama Traore. And at the moment he is suffering with a right hamstring injury, but he'll be back soon enough. And he just show some highlights of him right now. He's extremely fast. He's small. He's got a strong build. He's a good passer. He's a good finisher. He's just like everything you kind of want from a right winger. Yeah, play some more of his highlight. At the moment he is playing for Fulham. His return is doubtful though, so he probably will come back soon. One thing I really like about this signing is, one, we can rest Saka and it adds depth, and he can still do the job. I don't think Arteta trusts Nelson to come in there and start over Saka in big games, but Adama Traore would be able to start in big games. He's 27 years old, like Toney. He's really cheap at 16 million. He's a bit shorter than Toney. Well, we're not really supposed to be comparing them, but he's 178 centimetres. And also, one thing this does is, at the moment, I feel like Saka's too comfortable with his role, because there's no other right wingers really pushing him to stay in there. But with Traore in the squad, he's going to have to play better to keep his... Saka's going to have to play better to keep his role as the starting right winger. And our last player that I want to sign is Zubimendi. He's extremely good on the ball. His dribbling is great. His defensive work is so good. His passing is good. He's zippy. He's an all-round, just perfect midfielder from Real Sociedad. If I can get his stats up, that'll be handy. Where is Lolly on this? He's younger than the other signings. He's 24 years old. He's Spanish. He's valued at 66 million. Also, these values might be Australian dollars because I am Australian. So I'm sorry about that. He's 180 centimetres. He's a right footer. If you just watch his highlights, he's everything Arsenal need. He just provides that box to box midfielder that we're kind of missing because we do have Rice, but he's playing as a DM, and Havertz is just pushing forward and getting in. From my view, he's getting in the way. Even though he has been playing well, he's limited the how well Martinelli and Odegaard can play. So that's something. And this is what we would look like. Oh wait, never mind. I was already there. That's what we would look like going forward, and that's the team I really want Arteta to sign one of those players. I don't think we have links with Traore. It's probably not going to happen, but Tony, and Zubimendi, if we can get one of those two in the squad, he's going to make a huge upgrade for us. And they're both realistic signings. They're both linked with Arsenal and everything. Anyway, let's go to the players that I would like to sell. This is a tough one because it's not that tough. In goals, I think we just have to sell Ramsdale. He's just rotting on the bench. He's a world-class keeper, but obviously Arteta's shown that he prefers Raya over Ramsdale. So the logical thing to do in this situation is just sell the keeper that's not getting time. And if you really want a decent backup keeper, sign a Conco. Well, sorry, not sign him. Get a Conco back from, where is he playing at? Wrexham or something. Get him back from loan and develop him as a young goalkeeper. Because you can't have two brilliant goalkeepers. And one's always going to be disappointed. I think Ryder has been playing well in the last couple of games. His passing out of the back's been brilliant. So I'd like to keep going with Raya. I think he's slightly better than Ramsdale in terms of his passing ability and his playmaking. Where would Ramsdale be likely to go? Probably to Newcastle, except then what's going to happen with Ramsdale and Pope, I don't know. After Pope gets back. He's been linked with Newcastle. Chelsea, I think he's been linked with. They need a new keeper. Sanchez hasn't really been doing very well for Chelsea. And another player I'd like to sell is El Neni. We've got so many DMs in this side. Thomas Partey, when he gets fit, he's a very good option off the bench in this side. Jorginho, his passing ability is insane. Rice, he's starting for us, and I just don't think El Neni's really got much to impact on this squad, and I think we should just sell him before he gets too old. He has been a hero for Arsenal in the past. He's just been one of their long-term players. He's stayed at the club for a very long time, but I think it's time to move on. Touching on the Zubimendi thing, I think we are linked with Douglas Luiz, except I think Aston Villa don't really want to sell him, and Zubimendi's just for me is just a better option. Even though Douglas Luiz did just score the winning penalty against, who was it? Burnley, I think. Anyway, who else would I sell? No one else. I think Nketiah is a good option off the bench. Still, Arteta has started him against Fulham. He hasn't done much, but he's he's still a good striker that we can build and grow, and I think that just selling him isn't going to be a very good option in terms of depth, and because if Tony or Jesus gets injured after that, like, who do you have to fall back on, like, off the bench? Like, say you're starting Jesus at striker, he can't start 90 minutes every game. Who's going to come on and fill in those gaps that Jesus isn't playing? Like, you have to keep him in the side. The other person I might consider selling is Smith Rowe. He's a brilliant player, but he's obviously not going to get game time in this lineup. Off the bench, I'd like to see him more often because he's just small, he's zippy. I remember in that, I think it was 21-22 season, he was starting lots of games, just scoring heaps of goals. And that's kind of what I want him to do off the bench now for us. And I think he's a better player than the likes of Fabio Vieira and Reece Nelson, but Arteta is just not giving him that game time. So that should wrap up the video. I think I'd be very happy with this squad going into the back half of the season. Where do I think Arsenal will finish at the end of the season? Hopefully, I reckon we'll finish second or third at the way we're going, because we've just had a horrible run of games. Like, the draw to Liverpool, you can get that's fine. Like, that's a good result, I guess. But then the 2 losses on the trot we're experiencing now. West Ham, which we should be winning. I still can't believe it. 71.5% possession and 30-something shots, and we still lost 2-0, even though their first goal was very scrappy. It was an error from Zinchenko. That's maybe something I want to talk about, because Zinchenko has made many mistakes recently, and maybe do we need to be starting a Tomiyasu there? That's just one thing I've been thinking recently, because Tomiyasu has been excellent off the bench and when he started as well. But today against Fulham, he was a bit shaky off the bench. Or we could be starting a Kiwior. He's playing into form. He's an excellent player for us. Maybe off the bench though. He's not quite as good as Tomiyasu and Zinchenko and White, but he would do the job. And yeah, the second goal against West Ham was just poor defending the corners. We also conceded a corner against Fulham. That one was like a bit scrappy though. I can't blame the defenders. I think Tomiyasu could have dealt with it better, because Gabriel kind of kicked it onto Tomiyasu, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the... Well, it does matter, but like at the end of the day, it is what it is. And then the second goal, Kiwior couldn't have done much. I feel like he slided in a bit too late, but it was a beautiful cross and just as good of a finish. And yeah, for our attack though, the way I feel like we can play our players into form is like, trying out new things, just trying out new tactics, or just reverting to what we were doing last season. I don't see why Arteta, he's trying to what do you call it? He just wants to get Havertz in there, and I feel like it would almost be, Havertz has played outstanding, but he's just like interrupting everything else. It would be better with Rice as a 6 and then as an 8, and then putting Jorginho as the 6 as the DM. Then I think Havertz is a very good impact player off the bench. I think that would work. Same as Trossard and players like that, Tomiyasu. But yeah, I think we got to try and do what we were doing last season. Last season we were electrifying, we were playing well, but this season we've all of a sudden just slowed it down And obviously I've talked about this very much. Havertz is getting in the way, I believe, of everything else. And we need someone who can do that Xhaka role that Xhaka was doing for us last season, because he was exceptional. Zubimendi could be that man. But anyway, thank you guys for watching this episode, the very first episode of the Gunner Report. Hopefully you liked the video. I don't expect many views from this, but anyway, see you in the next one.